Hi, thank you for taking time this evening to staff with me for my case study number one. I had the pleasure of meeting a client this afternoon, and her name is Yvonne. Having the opportunity to speak with Mrs. Perez today, I did discover that she was referred by her breastfeeding nurse. Her breastfeeding nurse had noticed that she had been having a depressed mood lately, flat affect, and experiencing fatigue. Miss Perez is 23 years old, and she is 2 weeks postpartum, and she has been increasingly dysphoric, feeling hopeless, and feeling overwhelmed. Um, Ms. Perez reports that she is worried all the time and enthusiastic, especially since that she became pregnant with her second child. And giving a little background about Mrs. Perez, she has two children. They're both very young. One is 16 months, and she just had a new little boy. He is 2 weeks old. Um, she and her husband have been married for a couple years. But they were not ready to have another baby. They really couldn't afford it. Her husband really, really wanted her to get an abortion with this pregnancy because they just really didn't feel they could afford another child. Miss Perez is having a difficult time breastfeeding her new baby, and he's really colicky, and she's just like, why is this happening to me? Um, Mr. Perez, he works a lot, so it is leaving Mrs. Perez at home alone a lot with the kids, being the only caregiver for them. They did recently relocate to the area that they're living in now because of Mr. Perez's job. They really don't have any support close by. Neither one of their family lives in this area, so everything is new to them. However, Mr. Perez's mom is coming into town to help her for a little while. Mrs. Perez did used to have a job until midway in between of being pregnant with her first child, but then she just became way too tired to work, and she really hasn't worked since. Miss Perez, she did used to smoke, but when she found out she was pregnant with her first child, she quit smoking. She's overall pretty healthy, takes a multivitamin, but does have a diagnosis of asthma. During the assessment, I learned with Mrs. Perez um, that she did present well dressed, well groomed, but she did have flat affect. Often looked at the floor when she spoke. However, occasionally she did make eye contact. She had low mood, and her affect was constricted. Miss Perez had decreased energy and appeared to be sleep deprived. She denied having any suicidal, homicidal ideations or thoughts. She denied having any hallucinations or delusions. Um, she did report that several family members in her family appeared to be depressed, and depression likely runs in her family. Miss Perez appeared to have good insight and be of average intelligence. She is 2 weeks postpartum with two small children, so I'm sure she's extremely exhausted with little to no help from her husband. Mrs. Perez, I think it is important to note that she thinks she's being punished for not wanting the baby. This bit of information isn't a delusion or anything like that. She is just feels that she's being punished for her and her husband not wanting to have a baby at this time, and we're considering abortion. So Miss Perez, she presents with low mood, she has poor energy, lack of sleep, she's fatigued. Ever since she discovered that she was pregnant with her second child, she has been unenthusiastic and tired and stressed and worried. She's not present. She was brought to our attention by her breastfeeding nurse, have noticing these symptoms. Ms. Perez recently relocated to this area. She does not have a support system here. Um, they are struggling financially with the second baby. Mrs. Perez doesn't have a lot of support from her husband. He works a lot, so she is the primary caregiver with no breaks. She's struggling breastfeeding. Her baby's colicky, and she is exhausted. So what we need to do is to help determine how to help Mrs. Perez and what is her diagnosis. One of the things that I considered was any of these characteristics or symptoms that I saw, were any of them related to her Hispanic culture? Or is she at risk of bipolar, or just due to just giving birth to her baby, due to those increased risks? So what do you think that Mrs. Perez's diagnosis should be, and how best do you think we can help her? I really look forward to your input. Thank you.